Hello, my name is Amy Williams, and I'm the Director of Review and Adoption in the Instructional Materials Division at the Texas Education Agency. During this training video, I will show you how to submit your complete description for Proclamation 2019. A complete description provides details about the components that you will use to demonstrate TEKS coverage. So, only those components that will be used on your correlations should be included on your complete description. This information helps TEA staff plan for the summer review because it lets us know how many different components will require a review. Since you are only telling us about the components that you will use for TEKS coverage, you do not include any information about package pricing or subscription links. Before you get started, you'll need to gather the following information for each component that you intend to use on your correlations for TEKS coverage. Each component will require a unique title and ISBN. You'll need to provide the media format, the copyright year, product type such as book, workbook, software, etc., item type, which will either be student or teacher component, preliminary price, the number of pages and weight for any print components intended for student use, and the system requirements for any digital components. You are not going to need an EMAT username and password in order to submit your complete description. Each complete description must be linked to a statement of intent to bid, so you may only submit complete descriptions for programs for which you already submitted a statement of intent to bid. You may submit multiple complete descriptions, all linked to the same statement of intent to bid. You must submit a separate complete description for each media format. So if you intend to offer your materials in print and online, then you'll submit two separate complete descriptions, one for each of those formats. Once you've gathered all the necessary information, you're ready to submit a complete description. To begin, you need to go to the Publisher Bid Start page. If you already have an EMAT login, you may log into your vendor start page, but remember that it's not necessary to log into EMAT in order to submit a complete description. If you don't already have it bookmarked, you'll find a link to the Publisher Bid Start page on the Publisher portal. To access the Publisher portal, go to the TEA homepage at tea.texas.gov. Hover over the Academics tile, find Instructional Materials, and select Publisher Portal. Once you're on the Publisher Portal, you'll need to scroll down to the section titled EMAT Login. Click on the link at the end of the first paragraph, and you'll arrive at the Publisher Bid Start page. From there, you will need to select the correct proclamation year, which is 2019, and then find your company name by clicking on the magnifying glass. Once you've selected your name, you will click Continue to Statement of Intent to Bid. This will take you to the bid status page, which should look very familiar. You'll see a list of all the statements of intent to bid that you already submitted. Just find the one you want to work with and click on the word Complete Description. You'll see two options. You can either add a new complete description, or you can see a list of those you've already entered. If you're entering your first complete description, read over the general information and the submission instructions before you begin. There are also field descriptions located on the right-hand side of the page for both the program information and the component information. Your complete description will be pre-populated with program information from your statement of intent to bid. There are a few pieces of information that you will not be able to modify, including the statement of intent to bid ID, publisher and depository name, subject area, and MLC or course, but everything else can be edited. Review the title and make any necessary changes. But remember, you should not include any details regarding pricing or subscription options in the title. Review your entries for author and TEKS coverage percentage and update them as needed. You will provide your official TEKS coverage percentage later when you submit your correlations and pre-adoption samples. Enter the copyright year and edition and select the media format. If all of the components in your program are the same format, you will select electronic, online, or print. The difference between electronic and online is that electronic products do not require access to the internet. There are also options for programs that have a combination of media formats. We get a lot of questions about this because it's sometimes difficult to decide which format to choose. You should think about the primary component that is intended for students. If the primary component intended for students is digital, but you also include some print components, you would select electronic or online with print. If the primary student component is print, but you will also include some electronic or online components, you would select print with digital components. If you have print components that are intended for student use, you need to provide the total page count of those components in the estimated number of pages field. Enter the program ISBN. The program ISBN must be different from each of the component ISBNs, even if your program only contains one component. If you have any digital components, you need to review and update the system requirements. This should include anything that will be required to use the digital components, such as type of device, internet speed, or type of browser. I'm going to skip the next section, but I'll come back to it later. In the next section, you'll enter information about the components that will be used for TEKS coverage. In order to maintain consistency, please enter all student components first, and then enter all teacher components. You will enter the component title and ISBN. Please remember that each component must have a unique ISBN. Next, you will select the media format. At the component level, you should select electronic, online, or print. Since a component is a single item, you should not need to select any of the combined media formats. Consumable components are components that are not intended to be reused from one year to the next. Select Yes if the component is consumable, otherwise select No. Enter the copyright year for the component and select the product type. There's a long list of options in this list, but if you do not see anything that describes the component, you can select Other. In the item type field, you'll select the primary audience for the component, which will be student or teacher. If the component is print and intended for student use, enter the total number of pages and weight of the component. If the component is print and intended for teacher use, but has pages that are intended for student use, you will need to enter the total number and weight of those pages only. Next, you will enter the preliminary price of the component. Remember that you will have an opportunity to provide final pricing when you submit your official bids. If a component is digital, you will need to enter the system requirements just like you did at the program level. To add another component, click Add Component. If you need to delete a component, click Delete Component. If you're entering multiple complete descriptions all tied to the same statement of intent to bid, and the components on each of those complete descriptions contain identical content, you will need to link all of those complete descriptions together. You will link the complete descriptions before you submit the final complete description for a single statement of intent to bid. To do this, you will click on the magnifying glass under Complete Description ID and select the Complete Description ID for any complete description you've already entered for this subject area and grade level or course that contains components with identical content. Please note that all complete descriptions you've entered will appear in this list, not just those you've entered for this statement of intent to bid. So it will be helpful to have a list of each complete description ID in order to quickly identify the correct entry. If you need to link multiple complete descriptions, you will just click the plus sign to add another row and repeat the process. Once you're done selecting the complete descriptions, you will check the box below the table to certify that the content used for TEKS coverage is identical in the components included on each of the complete descriptions you've selected. Go back and review all of the information you have entered and then click Submit. You can print or save a copy of the complete description for your records by clicking the Print button at the top of the page. This will open a new window, so you have to make sure that your browser settings allow pop-ups. All complete descriptions are due by 5 p.m. on Friday, January 26, 2018. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact your publisher liaison at 512-463-9601 or email Review and Adoption at review.adoption@tea.texas.gov.